Hey guys, welcome back. Eric Smith here, Five Reasons Sports contributor, also co host of Scouting the Fins. You can find the video for that on the Five Reasons YouTube channel, and you can find the audio for that on the 3 Yards Per Carry podcast feed. Back in December of 2024, I had a tweet showing that there's only been 4 times in 2023 and 2024 that Miami had the same 5 offensive linemen for 100 or more consecutive snaps, and only one of those 4 times exceeded 120 snaps. The combination of Patrick Paul, Jonah Savaiinaya, Aaron Brewer, Cole Strange, and Larry Borum is not the most talented group of 5, but there is still value in continuity. By my counts, they have now played 173 consecutive snaps together. And the benefit of that has been reflected in how their grades have come out for me. It's now been 3 full games, and in the first game against the Jets, they came in at a season low of 2.48. The following week against the Panthers, they improved to an even 5.00, and that's about as average of a performance as you can have. And now this week versus the Chargers, they have again raised that bar slightly to a 5.82. The season high grade for this offensive line was week 1 versus the Colts when they still had, 4 of the 5 starters. And, that feels very much within reach, assuming there's no significant changes as we head into next week against the Browns. But before we get into that, let's dive into the grades for the Chargers game. And everyone knows how the game ended. If you want that, go check out the Final Yard post game that I did with Eric Wiedeke on the Five Reasons YouTube channel yesterday. And we're not going to talk about the defensive struggles. If you want to hear more on that, then check out the video from Anthony Testino that will be posted on my page. And, but here, as usual, we are going to focus on the offensive line performance. One change for this week. In previous weeks, the number that was in parentheses here was the previous week's score for that player. Now that we have 5 weeks of data, I finally got around to getting the formula set up for the season to date grade. So that is now what you're seeing in parentheses, their grade for the season to date. So, like we normally do, we are going to work from the lowest score to the highest score, and then we're going to get into some video review at the end. Coming in with our lowest grade of the week was Cole Strange, and you can see that he hasn't been very good this season, maybe despite public opinion, season grade at 2.16. This week was a 1.85. If you want to go over to the Twitter timeline, you can find me at OLCoachSmith63, and I posted several of the videos that are showing why his grade came in as low as it did. He's the best of a bad bunch right now when we talk about the options at right guard. I do not see him in any way being a long-term solution at right guard. And the grades that he's been putting out show why the Dolphins are unable to give Jonah Savaiinaya more help on the left side, because I think if you left Cole Strange completely on an island, you'd really be in trouble. One maybe positive thing that I can say about Cole Strange is that when I look through the negative grades that he had, I think he had 5 grades that were complete zeros, can't get any worse than that, for those plays. But most of those plays are on concepts that the Dolphins don't run that often, right? I mean, it was, duo, pin and pull, long trap, counter. It's not their traditional zone stuff. So maybe there is still a little bit of room for improvement as he continues to grow chemistry in this offense. But for now, he's just not performing very well. Our next lowest grade is going to be our other guard, Jonah Savaiinaya, coming in at a 4.85. So a little below average. Want to get to 5.00 being the average, but still a significant jump from his season grade of 1.65 and his best performance of the regular season. Looking through the plays where he got marked down on, There was a total of 6 of those, and all but one of those were in the pass game. There was obviously the one that he lost and gave up the sack. That was graded as a 0. Then the next two pass plays were both long trap concepts where they're asking Jonah to pull across the formation. Don't think that's something that he has shown that he does very well, but the team seems to like to use that concept when one of the guards get beat. We saw it happen with Cole Strange as well, where I think it's just trying to change things up for the defensive tackle they're facing and give them a different look, but not something I think Jonah's going to be great at. So, most of his negatives from this game, essentially came in a 3 play offensive sequence. I thought it was a okay game overall. Need to continue to see improvement from the rookie, but I thought this was his best game of the season by quite a bit, and gives me a little bit of optimism that like the line as a whole, right? Maybe the Browns is where we see him get over the hump and get over that 5.00 average grade and actually show the player that we expected when he was drafted. And next up, we are going to have right tackle Larry Borum coming in at a 5.64. He had a really good score last week, but he was very protected with the play calling. You can see that this grade is a little bit better than what he has done on average this season. The play calling this week was not designed to protect him nearly as well as it did last week, and that kind of showed up. Last week, we didn't see any outside zone runs to the right, or very few runs to the right in general. They were much more even with it this week, and a couple of his negative plays were in the run game to the right side. Overall, I think this is what you would hope to get out of Larry Borum, a average to slightly above average game. Not asked to do a lot, right? Not asked to do nearly the same things that Patrick Paul is, but was adequate in the things that he was asked to do. And then we'll move along to Aaron Brewer, coming in at a really good 8.32. I didn't have any 0 grades for him. I had 4 plays that he was marked partially negative on, 3 of those being in the pass game, one of them being an outside zone run to the left. This grade might be a little surprising to some, just considering the fact that he did have the 2 holding penalties. But again, if you go back on the X timeline, and maybe we'll get to those in the video review as well, those were plays that I do not assign full blame on Aaron Brewer. On both of those, he was kind of doing what he could not to get his quarterback killed on plays that weren't necessarily completely his fault. So I thought that he had another really good game, and kind of an improvement from what we've seen in the previous weeks. But I think that kind of goes along with the improvement of at least one of the guards around him as well, getting back to that high level that we expected from 2024. And then obviously the last player that we have is Patrick Paul, and this is a player who we talked about last week, kind of being on a roller coaster of up and down games. Last week was another up game, and he followed that again here, coming in at a perfect 10.00. And I don't want to make this sound like the game was completely perfect, but when you remove the outliers, the score that Patrick Paul got this week was the lowest that you could get and still come in at a 10.00. What it comes down to is that throughout the entire game, Patrick Paul only had 2 plays that were even marked partially negative. So not a perfect game from a raw score standpoint, but when you weight those grades, this was still just about as good as you can be, and more than the high grade. Really love to see the fact that this is now 2 weeks in a row that we're getting really high grades from Patrick Paul, and hopefully we can see that trend continue. All right, for the video review portion, I think we're just going to go through some of the plays that I shared on Twitter and talk about them a little more. There's going to be some good stuff and some bad stuff on here. So this first play that we're looking at is going to be the 49-yard touchdown to Devon Achane. This was a pin and pull concept. They ran it a few more times throughout the game, but In this one, so we're going to get Julian Hill pinning the defensive end there. We're going to get Larry Borum pinning the defensive tackle here. Cole Strange getting out into space to this second level defender. Aaron Brewer getting around here. And in the way that Miami seems to want to run this, they're not getting the backside guard out. They're asking them to cut off on the backside with this one technique, and we'll probably get into a play later where that comes back to bite them. And then just a real simple read by HN getting through there. And as you can see, very simple, easy install. Probably should have been used it a little bit more. They have tried to use it without a ton of success, but felt like they were trying to put themselves into some poor positions. Last year they tried it with Jonnu Smith instead of just using the best running back on your roster. Here we can see the pin blocks from Julian Hill, Larry Borum, getting Cole Strange around the edge. Jonah doing just enough to cut that backside defender off. And then we're getting Brewer around with the key block here. And then Devon Achane, of course, just destroying angles. So just wanted to share this. Again, very simple run concept that they, I think, 3 or 4 times ran. I think they ran the ball once to the right, ran the ball once to the left, and there was also a play action late in the game where they used the same thing. So nice little add to the toolbox this year and well executed on the touchdown run. And then another good run here. This is going to be an outside zone to the right. And when you're running zone plays, whether it's inside zone or outside zone, it's a numbers game, right? So we have 1, 2, 3 blockers to the play side, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4 defenders. So the way the Dolphins are going to even that out is going to be to bring Julian Hill over as well. And you can see when they do this, the defense is going to shift. And it is a nice execution. This is a outside, even though it goes to the inside, this is still an outside zone run. And you can see that the way that the leverage of these combo blocks create that cutback. You got Julian Hill and Alec Ingold comboing through the defensive end up to the safety on the outside here. Cole Strange, Larry Borum comboing to this linebacker. And technically, Jonah and Aaron Brewer are comboing to this linebacker, but Jonah's in good position to take that block so Brewer can climb immediately. And the horizontal pressure, especially after Achane just destroyed angles on the outside of that touchdown run, you can see that the defense is all trying to get that outside leverage. Gives an opportunity for the running back to make the offensive line right. And you can see the wall being created, the cutoff by Patrick Paul on the backside here, and another nice gain on the ground. Not going to spend a lot of time here, but we talk about Cole Strange's low grade, just some examples here. So this is going to be duo is the run concept that they're showing here in the play action. This should be everybody going to their backside gap. Right, the combo block, if they were actually running duo, would be Cole Strange, Aaron Brewer through number 92 to number 43. You can see that 43 is blitzing through the B gap. Strange is late to react to it. Obviously, the ball gets out of there, right? But this is still something that I mark as a negative for Cole Strange because if the ball wasn't out of there immediately, right now we're giving up a hit to the quarterback. Just one of those examples where doesn't result in a sack, but doesn't mean that everybody's doing exactly what they're supposed to either. And then this one here, not much of a gain here, and not going to get into what happened on the outside here, but I want you to watch Aaron Brewer here at center, trying to get over here and cut off this one technique defensive tackle. And what I like here is that he wins position early, but we know that Aaron Brewer is not the strongest center in the league, but does a good job of not overrunning this as he gets there. Watch the way he kind of settles down and presses back into that defender and doesn't let him do anything with it. So just like the kind of unique technique that Aaron Brewer is using there to compensate for his lack of strength. And then this is going to be the first holding penalty on Brewer, so this should be everybody getting their gap to the right, and we got Ingold coming across to the backside A gap. And what you're going to see here, and this likely is not the way that this was designed by the Chargers. You typically don't have two guys going to the same gap, and maybe it's slightly on Brewer from not being able to slide over, right? Maybe number 3 is supposed to be coming through there where it's covered by Ingold. But the situation that you end up with is that you have two defenders going through the right side A gap. You've got Ingold coming over here where he probably should be. And for Brewer, you know, you kind of get into a spot that you have, you know, trying to block two guys, trying to protect your quarterback from a gap pressure, reaches out, gets called for the hold. So did mark him partially negative on it, but this isn't a play that I would just give a full negative because I much prefer the holding penalty here as opposed to just letting that A gap pressure with a free run at the quarterback. And then we get a little bit of trick play action here. And I don't know that I marked Cole Strange necessarily negative on this play, but I do feel like once we're in this position, he can see where this is lining up. And there's a little bit of hesitation there as he's pursuing that linebacker. And in my opinion, when you get linemen in the open field here, I would prefer them just to be decisive and run at these linebackers and defensive backs and give the running back a chance to make you right. In this case, we can see where his eyes are, that Cole Strange's eyes, as the ball's being caught, he can see Larry Borum setting up to the outside here. So he should know that Achane is likely to take this up the sideline. I would prefer him just to basically sprint down the sideline here, and as this defender is coming over, make him take that path. Instead, there's a little bit of hesitation by Larry Borum, and the defender is able to get over top to make that play. Right, right there's the hesitation, over top, making the play. Again, not saying it's a big negative by Cole Strange, but when we talk about opportunities at big plays, this was a 3rd and 18, and if we just get Cole Strange about right there, then we're at least getting to the first down marker, and quite possibly taking this one to the house. And adding this one in here because this is an example that I feel there are times that plays don't succeed, and it's not necessarily the offensive line. So when we're doing the offensive line grading, it doesn't always show up that way. And this is one of those examples. I don't know if the defense shifted the way the Dolphins expected, but if we watch the way that the entire offensive line is executing this, right? Julian Hill is getting out there, Larry Borum is solo there, but we get a combo up to there, and these guys are on the same page there. So I think that they expected for Alec Ingold to either help Borum on his way up to 43 or get a quick kick out there and block back. Instead, we end up with nobody blocking number 43, and he's able to fill and make that play. And you can see here, looking at the eyes of Strange and Jonas Avayanaya, right? They're both going backside. Feels like the offensive line is all on the same page that they are accountable for 0 and 3, and that 43 should be handled in some manner between Ingold and Julian Hill. Instead, we get Larry Borum with the one-on-one block. We get Alec Ingold all the way out here to the defensive end, working up to a safety, and we have a linebacker running through free. So in this example, just one of those that, I felt like the offensive line did everything they were supposed to on this, and that there was a miscommunication with the skill players that resulted in a linebacker having a free run for the tackle. So we talked about pin and pull a little bit earlier, and in this scenario, you can see we don't have the same alignment with Julian Hill and the defensive end, so he is no longer pinning there. He's going to get to the next level. We still got our pin with Patrick Paul, still getting Jonah pulling out, but with the end still here, this turns into more of a kick out block than getting out and leading, and then Aaron Brewer would pull through to get to the linebacker. Ends up looking kind of like 29 buck sweep in a sense, with the center pulling instead of the guard. But if you remember on that pin and pull earlier, Jonah got just enough of that backside one technique that it didn't affect the play. You're going to see on this one that Cole Strange is not able to get that. All right, so Cole Strange ends up getting walked all the way into the hole there, trips a little bit. Maybe you could say that's part of the issue, but in this offense, I think we really need to see these guards win quicker, right? Get off the ball, get that head across, and just kind of run at a 45 pressing, just not allowing him to get through. Because you can see that, you know, if we can pin that defender inside, maybe Julian Hill could have helped out too. We've got an okay kick out from Jonah. We've got Brewer leading through. You've got Julian Hill up there. So just an example here where, if we could get this backside cutoff, then we have yet another pretty good run play. And then this is going to be the other holding play by Brewer. So this is supposed to be basically a long trap technique where these guys are all backside. Jonah's coming across to get the defensive end, and Patrick Paul is just going to set up out here. And I understand Cole Strange helping to the front side here, but I think that he goes way too far and then gets knocked on his ass. But you can see that Aaron Brewer is working to the backside, right? He has the gap over there, and he's responsible for helping to the inside with Patrick Paul, and he should be able to pass this off to Cole Strange because, like I said, all three of these guys should be going away from the pull of Jonah. But as he's working to where he should be able to help, naturally you should feel Cole Strange attaching to that block. I think that he never feels that, and that's why he never lets go there and ends up getting called for the hold. But another scenario that, not marking Aaron Brewer as a negative here, I actually have Cole Strange marked as a negative for not going the right way and getting knocked completely off of his feet. But from Aaron Brewer's perspective, I would much prefer, giving up that hold again through the backside A gap than I would just turning this defensive tackle loose directly into the quarterback. Another Cole Strange play here. So again, right, this is going to be a counter play where everybody's blocking down. Savaianaya is coming across, and we're going to try to get here. But as you can see, everybody is blocking down. We're shaping up pretty solid. You're getting Jonah and Alec Ingold working to the outside there, but the tackle happens. And if you go back and look at how that tackle happened, it's going to be Cole Strange again. Everybody working to the backside here need to be able to get into this defender and be able to seal him. And you can see that had it been sealed, we're opening up nicely, but number 96 is able to get over top of Cole Strange and probably should have had a penalty for a tripping there. But even with the tripping, had Cole Strange been able to secure that block, right, then we are suddenly dealing with Devon Achane one-on-one with a safety. So another example where we are, literally one block from another explosive play in this offense. And then here we go with pin and pull again. So this is going to be a pass. I don't know if it's a true RPO or not. Should have probably looked at the ones earlier to see if there was what looks to be a pass option with it as well. But you can see here that we're getting the exact same action that we're pinning to the inside with Waller and Patrick Paul. We're pulling to the outside with Jonah and Aaron Brewer. But now we're getting a pass on the backside of it and getting a solid gain here. So this is a third down play, plus we get the roughing the quarterback. But this is just an example of when you can execute, at a decent level with these run plays, it creates some pursuit from the defense, and that allows you to go to the backside with it, hit, whether it was an RPO or a predetermined swing pass here. But now you've got 2-on-2 and a really good guy in space. So, like the way that the play calling progressed to this. Another one for Cole Strange, not a sack, but you can't lose a rep, much closer than what he does here. And then here an example that I like of using the pre-snap shift and then a motion. So this is going to be outside zone to the right. We talked before about the numbers game. So you got one, two, three defenders, and nose counts as a half, but we've only got two offensive players. So we bring Alec Ingold over, and now things are evened up. We've got three offensive players to the play side. We have three defensive players. And now to create the advantage, we are bringing Julian Hill in motion. And that's what creates the numbers advantage here. That now we have essentially 3-on-3 on the outside, and we're creating a scenario where the combo from Borum and Cole Strange is making it easy for Larry Borum to get to that second level. So I know I've been critical in the past about some of the times that Mike McDaniel has used offense and it feels like it has put them at a disadvantage. But this is a case where they had even numbers. They brought one more over to create the advantage. And that motion is really what gives them the number advantage to get this outside zone off for another big gain. And then last one here. So this is just going to be I think it was 3rd and 2. And we're going to see the Dolphins, finally just lining up and running duo, bringing the big back in. And you can see how he does a nice job of finding the crease. Ideally we would have Jonah and Brewer to 43, and then Strange and Borum to number 0. But I think that I think Strange gets held, but they do a decent job of creating a little bit of movement here, and we get the good combo block from Brewer and Jonah to the backside of the duo. And when you do that, then that gives you an opportunity for your running back to be able to fall forward. He finishes it going backwards, right? But on initial contact, you can see that he's still generating some yardage, getting enough for the first. You know, like to see this, and hopefully that builds some confidence that in these short yardage situations, that the Dolphins can continue to run the ball and be successful. That is going to wrap it up for this week. And as you can see, the grades for this offensive line are trending in the right direction. There is some stuff to really like in the play calling and execution of this offense from this past week. And there's still some stuff to get cleaned up. If this was week 2, I'd be feeling pretty optimistic about where the team is, but might be, a little too late as we head into week 7. No matter how the season turns, we're going to continue these grades the whole way through and evaluating what went well and what did not from week to week. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to tune in to Scouting the Fins and also to the defensive breakdown video from Anthony Testino this week. Leave some comments on this video. Let me know what you think. Do you like the format that I've been using this year, where we get the grades out of the way at the beginning of the video and then have, kind of more random video breakdowns of individual plays? Or did you like it better last year, where I really tried to highlight, good and bad plays from specific linemen based on their grades of that week? Let me know what you think.